All right, welcome back to Southeastern 14 here once again with Rory Whetstone, who is our what do you call her? Our Missouri correspondent. How about that?
There you
That's a
go.
great
I
title.
like that.
I may have used that before, but that's the best I can come up with. But Rory's back, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on the videos we've done with Rory thus far. Obviously, she is interning for us, and yeah, she's covering a lot of Missouri stuff, basketball, baseball, it all. She's covering it all. So excited to have her back. And obviously, Rory, we're talking on Friday ahead of the regular season finale for Missouri basketball, and that will come against Ole Miss in Columbia on Saturday. Obviously, a game that they should win.
Yes.
I think it would probably be preferential for their NCAA tournament seeding to win that game. But I mean, look, I mean, this was a very important week for them in terms of like the last two games, and it was sort of like a similar experience where they didn't get off to a great start against Georgia, but then their second half they just
Mm-mm.
blew them away. Then against LSU, definitely didn't get off to a great start. LSU came out and hit about 43s in the first half, and but then rallied for a 5 point win. And I know the last time we talked, we were looking ahead at their schedule, and it was like these are the games. You've given yourself a little room to lose in one of these games, maybe, but you certainly don't want to take that chance just based on where they are. But they found a way to beat Georgia last week. They get the huge comeback win against LSU on Wednesday. So now, finally, a little positive momentum for Missouri here heading into this final game.
They need it. And that LSU game, oh, I was so nervous because they trailed the entire game except the most important 90 seconds, those last 90 seconds. And they went on, I want to say like a 15-4 run and turned it around. But I mean, LSU from three was just one after another after another. And I was like, oh my God, just please stop. But no, and it was good to see D'Moi Hodge lead in point. I think he had 23 points, so he was the team leader there. And it's nice to see him and Golston step up now and also lead with Brown because it can't just be Kobe Brown when you're heading into the NCAA tournament and the SEC tournament. So they've got other players stepping up, which is nice to see. And they had that in the Georgia game too because Hodge led in points there. So hopefully the three of them can pull off that win against Ole Miss tomorrow.
Well, and that's like I think the trio everyone was thinking about at one point, right? Was Kobe Brown, D'Moi Hodge, and Isaiah Mosley. But it's like, obviously that situation, as we've said, is I guess it kind of continues to be sort of ongoing, and we certainly don't have any insight into that. But that's just it. What it is, what it is. But like you mentioned, you've got to have somebody else step up, and DeAndre Golston has been one of those guys that's done that a lot this season. Like I think in some of these games specifically, where they've needed. I mean, I think back to obviously outside of the shot against Tennessee, but like he had a good game against Tennessee in that one, and just some of those other games you can kind of point out with them. Had a good game like against Vanderbilt and Arkansas and teams like that where they got some important wins. And so, yeah, I mean that's kind of your trio now that you're looking at it. Again, you're kind of replacing Mosley with Golston and D'Moi Hodge. Now I talked to Chris about this, and I don't know if we talked about it in our video, but we're going to do our awards on Sunday. Tentatively, like our Oscars. We're going to do like our Oscars awards here for the season, okay? So tentatively, we're going to do those on Sunday. And, we've had this debate all season. It's like, all right, is Tennessee's Zakai Ziegler, who just got the torn ACL, which is just brutal.
It's horrible.
Yeah, is he going to be the defensive player of the year? Is it going to be Colin Castleton, which, again, Castleton's out for the year at Florida with an injury. So, like, two guys just brutal injuries to maybe the two of the best defensive players in the conference. But like I said to Chris, I said, you're not, I don't know why you're not, I want to make sure we're on the same page here, but like we have to discuss D'Moi Hodge as like a defensive player of the year in the SEC. Like he has to be on that list, right? Because just the way, and we talked about it in the LSU game, the way he can just, all of a sudden someone's just bringing the ball down and there's D'Moi Hodge. He just tipped it away. He got a steal. Like, I mean, it's remarkable to watch him play when he does that.
He was defensive player of the year last year in his conference. And I wanted, and the other day he set the single season steal record for Mizzou. I want to say he's at like 78, somewhere around there. He's a force on both sides of the court. So I think his name should be mentioned up there, but I feel like he's left off the lists every now and then, but I think he's a top candidate for it.
Yeah, we're gonna add that to you. We're gonna give your vote to D'Moi Hodge. So when we do our awards, we're gonna add your vote in as one of the special awards for
there we go.
So we'll add you to the mix there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he was the defensive player of the year last year in the Horizon League. Obviously, comes over with Dennis Gates, and
Yes.
yeah, I mean, he's something else, and obviously was a big factor in that LSU game, just being able to force some steals and hit some big shots. And D'Moi Hodge. And you said like you don't think he gets probably talked about enough, but I think the reason why is like we still look at Missouri as like overall is not a great defensive team,
Not a defensive team.
but like they steal the ball so much. It's one of those weird things where it's like, hey, if you just have to guard someone straight up, sometimes like, oh boy. But if you're just asking for a team to make a steal, like all my money's on Missouri because they're probably going to find a way to steal the ball. They may not be able to rebound it, but they may be able to steal it. And
they force a ton of turnovers every game. Every game, there's a ton of turnovers. But when they're rebounding, I can't even watch. It's painful to watch. There was something I saw on Twitter the other day of like a chart, and it was like offensive and defensive rebounds, and Mizzou was like way at the bottom, and somebody's like, well, I guess you could say our rebounding's like off the charts.
Yes. Yeah. They were near the bottom of one of those. I did see that try. I saw you retweet that. I was like, yep, that sounds about right. But obviously that's something. Once we get into looking at like the SEC tournament matchups and the NCAA tournament matchups specifically for Missouri, it will be all right. What does the opposing team do well? Do they rebound well? If so, like you got to start thinking about that, and you start to game plan around that and figure out, all right, how do we take that edge away from that team? And so they are. I mean, and we've said this before. I think in some of our other videos we've done. You and I have talked about this. Like Missouri is the ultimate the matchup team. Like they just need the good matchups because if they play a team again that is, let's say, has a ton of size, rebounds well, which I think Mississippi State kind of fell into that category, which they won that game last week, but that was a chore at times. I mean, it was one of those things where you just look at the defense, the rebounding. Those are still the things you're going to talk about. But with D'Moi Hodge, with Golston stepping up, obviously we get him Kobe Brown. Trago Million's back now. We talked about him, right, and just the importance of what he can do. It does feel like, they may be the ultimate matchup team, that they really need the good matchups, but they've proven enough now, I think, against a lot of teams to where, hey, I mean, they can definitely go far in the NCAA tournament with the right matchup. So
I totally agree with that. And I think another player you add into that is Nick Honor too, because he was relatively quiet. And then at the Mississippi State game, I mean, he hit that three, which is why they won. And that was insane. But then he hit like another 8 against Georgia, and then he still played well against LSU. So it's nice to see that he's kind of on fire on offense, and hopefully that'll continue to go as we get to the SEC tournament. So that would also be a big matchup like advantage.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate unsung hero. Like he's the guy that stats are never just going to wow you, but it's just the fact that he's out there, like it matters. And it's like you think about just someone from he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And we've talked about that before with Missouri. That's another strength of theirs. They just don't turn it over a ton. And he's a big reason for that. So, yeah, Nick Honor. I mean, it's just the whole roster. You look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, that guy he's important in that area. Like, it's just credit to my guy, Dennis Gates. He put together a roster here that I know you're shocked that I would say that. But, I mean,
totally.
He has put together a roster that I think all the pieces just sort of fit together. And so even Mo Diarra, like he's coming along. I know, he can get in foul trouble and stuff, but he's played a lot more minutes. He's given them some stuff.
He's been starting. Yeah.
I mean, so I think, that they are, these last 2 wins to me are, and I know again, they're two of the bottom 4 seeds in the SEC tournament, Georgia and LSU, but just the way they're able to win those games, it just shows you that they have that ability at any time just to sort of go off and do what they did. So that obviously leads into the matchup on Saturday against Ole Miss. And I mean, Ole Miss is a team, let's call it what it is. They've already fired their head coach a couple weeks ago. They are 11-19, 3-14 in the SEC. They did beat LSU, but if you look at Ole Miss's 3 wins in the SEC this year, LSU, Georgia, South Carolina, again, 3 of the bottom 4 teams along with Ole Miss. So it's like, I would just be senior night for Mizzou, senior day, whatever. And it's just like, I feel like this is just a tough matchup for Ole Miss entering this one.
Especially, I want to say it's their last game at home. When they play at home, it's almost sometimes like watching a totally different team. I mean, no, I'm giving them the win tomorrow. I think it'll be a great game. So,
Well,
great way to end the season.
Missouri fans will not allow me to pick them to win. That is the new rule via the Twitter, is that when I pick Missouri to win, they lose. So when we
So please
made our
don't pick us to win.
I didn't. Don't worry. I actually forgot. We did our predictions video, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you've
Woo.
already watched that one. So what I did is initially I forgot, and I said, "Oh, Missouri's got this." But then I had to quickly remind myself, "Wait a second. No, 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 no. Ole Miss has got this," because I cannot do this. So I had to change my pick. So there's a spoiler for Missouri fans. If you're watching this, if you haven't watched the predictions video yet, don't worry. You may hear me initially pick the Tigers, but I remembered what I had to do contractually based on the requests of the Missouri Twitter mafia. And
I appreciate it.
you're welcome. Anyway, so yeah, I think the setup is interesting. If we look at we did our bracketology video on Thursday. Missouri fans, again, I'm sure you watched this. If you didn't, we actually feel like Missouri's resume right now is better than people think. I know the computers, the metrics, and those two words just drive me nuts this time of year. But they don't love Missouri. But you know what? It's like it is what it is, and that's why I think that they're just winning games, and that's kind of what you have to do this time of year. The computers don't love them because they've gotten blown out, and their non-conference schedule wasn't great. But you win games, and that sort of takes care of itself. So I think Missouri's seeding in the NCAA tournament, and remember, we're doing this in the context of they're going to beat Ole Miss. If they don't, then who knows what happens. But they're in, but it's just a matter. They could drop a seed line or two, maybe just for a bad loss, because that's what they have going for them right now. Knock on wood, Missouri fans. You've heard me say that about 50 times in the last 2 weeks, but they don't have a bad loss going for them right now. And so we think they're in good shape to be like a 7 or even an 8 seed. 7 people may think is high. I don't think it's necessarily that out of the realm of possibility, but so yeah, I mean, it's a good setup. And Roy, we're going to quickly do this, and I am not going to put you on the spot here because, as I said on Twitter, I am a madman. And so what I did was I went through.
Oh, God, I saw that.
Did you see this? All right, so hold on.
I did see that.
If you did not see this on Twitter, let me pull this up on our screen right now. Because oh my, what have you gotten yourself into if you saw this on Twitter? So, as you can see, if you're a Missouri fan and you are looking at the possibilities of your seeding, folks, it's right here on the screen. If you want to go to my Twitter account, you can see it right there. Don't go to Rory's because she's not going to retweet this. She's not going to retweet this madness on the timeline. But if you look at all this, these are all the scenarios that could play out on Saturday to decide the seeding from spots 3 to 10. If you're a Missouri fan, here's what you're rooting for, okay? We're not going through all these, but I'm just going to quickly give you what I see here. So obviously, go down to about 18, 19, 20, 21. That's where Missouri gets the 3 seed. So all the things you're rooting against there, I'm not going to go through them all, but just look at those scenarios and realize that's what you're rooting for, okay? Missouri is the 4 seed, actually, as we see, at the very top 4 potential scenarios there. There's 4 near the bottom for them as the 4 seed. So, again, you're rooting for those in terms of these are just the winners. So these are the teams you want to win in those games that are going to take place, those 5 games specifically on Saturday. So, yeah, the worst case scenario for Missouri is really, I'm looking at it. As I was doing this, I'm like, is this right? But really, if you look at it, look at the 7 line. Like they're only in 1, 2, 3. I think they're only in 4 possible scenarios of these 33 different ones here. So that's, worst case scenario. So you're definitely not rooting for that one. But so there you go. Inside the mind of a madman here on Southeastern 14. So there's your scenarios, Missouri fans. Did you get all that, Roy? You got all that, right?
There's a lot there.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
Quiz is coming on at the end of the show. We're gonna quiz you on every scenario on this thing. But all right, let's talk about baseball real quick before we wrap up because Rory's obviously covering baseball for us at Missouri. And hey, we've said I keep nudging Chris. I'm like, Chris, when are you gonna move Missouri up our power rankings? But he's not doing it yet. He did it initially, but he's not doing it just yet. So hey, 6-2 start, playing pretty well right now.
They're playing great. They played great the other day. It was a quiet first inning, and then they just blew out Lindenwood from then on out. They only didn't score runs in their first and 6th inning because they won with the new mercy rule. So that was nice. But no, it was great. Nick Smith started. It was his debut. He pitched 3 scoreless. His first 2 were perfect. And then talking to coach afterwards, he said the plan was always to pull him after pretty much like 3 or 4 because they wanted to get other pitchers who haven't pitched this season yet into the mix. And also the fact that he had a quick first inning and then an insanely long second inning that you have to sit through and then come back out. And that's not easy to do. But no, that was great. They've got Ty Wilmsmeyer has an 11-game hit streak. Like, they're hitting home runs. Like, it's fun to watch. I think you should watch out for them.
Yeah,
I think they're kind of underrated coming in right now.
I think we're underrating them. I think in our power rankings we're underrating them right now. I told Chris that we need to keep an eye on Missouri. You talked about Wilmsmeyer. I think he's hitting 500 on the year right now.
Yeah,
and that's good. Because they played 8 games, he's hitting 500. So, yeah, that's a nice thing to have. And like we talked about, just from that first weekend, to get those 2 wins against Texas and TCU, you could tell there was something there. Now, how much can you take away again from the taking 3 or 4 against FIU, beating Lindenwood 17-2? Maybe there's not a ton, but I think something else you noted, the story you did on the Lindenwood game, is like, if you keep looking at Missouri's schedule, they don't play a game away from home until like March 22nd. That's against Kansas in Kansas City. So that again includes their first SEC series, which will be against Tennessee. But they got a lot of games, at Taylor Stadium there, and that's where you can start to, build off of what they've already done. Like, that's where you can really build a momentum. And I think for a team like this that, has struggled before, that's good. Like, they need these kind of series to build that momentum up.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I'm hoping, is that they can keep that up, because if you have all that while you're at home and can just build and build and build and build, that'll be nice to take when you finally leave Columbia and go off and play those harder teams, because you'll have all that you had before. But we'll see. I mean, I got hopes for them.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, they're definitely, as you said, I mean, they're hitting the ball well. There's no doubt about that. And, I think, again, the pitching and just kind of where they're at, it will be interesting to see how they develop from here, because, if you're looking ahead a couple weeks, again, they open the SEC season or SEC play against Tennessee on March 17th. Then they go to South Carolina the following weekend. Then they go to Kentucky after that. Of course, Vanderbilt's at home. So, like, I think in that scenario, you look at like their first 4 SEC series. Look, they get the toughest teams at home. They get Tennessee at home.
Easy.
Yeah, they get Tennessee at home. They get Vanderbilt at home. They got to go to South Carolina. South Carolina's hitting the ball too. Kentucky, obviously, I think it's a team that's still okay, probably, despite being near the bottom of our power rankings right now. It's just somebody's got to be 1 through 14. But so yeah, I'm excited to see this team, because they were, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, like, they were the talk of the SEC on opening weekend for what they did, in Arlington. But now I'm just curious to see, like you said, and you'll be there to cover it, just how some of these guys continue to develop, how the pitching continues to look there. And so, yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. So
we will see. We will see. All right, Rory. Well, I'm not going to quiz you on the 33 SEC tournament scenarios, but we will include your votes when we make our defensive player of the year picks on Sunday for the Southeastern 14 Oscars. But of course, for now, let everybody know if they want to follow you on Twitter, they can. And again, you'll be covering more basketball, more baseball for us. Again, a lot more baseball on the way. Just, things they're heating up there. So anything else you want to say, let them know.
No, just Twitter's Rory Whetstone 7, and just keep looking for things about baseball now that that's really kicking into full gear. So I'm excited about that and everything that's going to bring. So, yeah.
Yep. Should be awesome. And the MLB season will be here before you know it. And then when we do these videos, you're going to hear a lot of talk about the Chicago Cubs and the Atlanta Braves, probably. So
I'm tempted to bring out the Swanson jersey soon.
It's going to happen. Listen, Missouri fans have got me on trying to. I'm actually in the process of buying a retro Missouri basketball jersey, so I might have to pull that out too. Maybe I should get a Dansby Braves jersey. You wear the Dansby Cubs jersey, and we're all set on there. So
that's fine.
We'll see what happens there. Anyways, all right. Well, once again, thanks to Roy for joining us here at Southeastern 14, and again, be sure to follow her work. A lot of great stuff there, and of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. like the video. That helps us out. And again, a lot more Missouri-based coverage on the way. Basketball, baseball, of course, football. They play that too, I believe, in the SEC, and we'll have a lot more of that coming soon in the off season. So hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you watching as always, and we'll talk to you again soon here on Southeastern 14.